Hello, I'm Lesley Atherton, and this next piece of writing is called Invited. Kevin poured himself another glass of wine, smaller than the last, even with dregs and cork fragments included. Smaller because he'd reached the end of the bottle, not because he was reducing his portion size. He definitely didn't approve of any form of discipline aimed at himself. It was necessary when dealing with others, of course, but Kev knew that there was nothing to gain from the imposition of bizarre, arbitrary and limiting rules upon his own life. He stared at the stag weekend invitation in his hands. Even with this weekend away on the cards, Stella had demanded that he not drink too much to save their marriage. He'd laughed. Only a fool would be practically teetotal on a joint stag and hen weekend, and Kev was no fool. The weekend meant drink and debauchery to Kev. Stella was also looking forward to it, though for different reasons. They were headed for Dublin, another city, another country even. Even better, the hens would go one way while the stags would go theirs, and that would give Stella her chance. She would run. She would split from the girls and hide. A week after the invitation was received, she'd already purchased disguises, posted packages and booked a hotel room under another name. Of course she'd lose herself by losing him, but that was the whole idea. Losing the person she'd become wasn't any kind of a loss. The others going to Dublin were massive drinkers. They'd not notice her sloping off for 20 minutes here and half an hour there. They'd be happily pissed and she'd have plenty of opportunities to tie up loose ends. When the first day of the stag weekend arrived, Stella knew exactly how her escape would be carried out. Bags of clothing and disguises had been posted to various locations. Money had already been transferred to bank accounts, all set up in different names. She'd access each in turn. She possessed just short of £2 million. Her money. A secret lottery win, of all things. Till she'd won it, she struggled to plan an escape. Now, wealthy and careful, she could do it. She really could do it. Her planning was immaculate. Her nails no longer were. She'd pulled off the acrylics that Kevin had demanded she wear. It was a finishing touch to her disguise, one that even Kevin wouldn't see through. This first persona, that of a street person, was liberating. She sat on the pavement, dirty and cold, only 50 feet from the pub where Kevin was eating, drinking and making merry. As Kev left, he kicked her, feigning sorrow at the accident. No recognition. Good. Soon after, the hen girls emerged from next door for their own taxi. They were a mess. High heels, vodka and bumpy pavements did not mix. "Have you got £1 for a cup of tea?" Stella croaked at Marie, the wife of her husband's best friend. Marie stared, then blanked her, disgusted. They were booked to leave the following morning. The plane would fly at 9 a.m, but the girls wouldn't be expecting Stella to join them, because she'd already told the hens that she'd booked a spa treatment at 7 a.m, and that she'd adjusted her homeward bookings so she could take a slightly later flight with Kevin, as a special surprise for her beloved. Stella could only imagine all the phone calls between Kevin and the others once they realised that she hadn't landed back in the UK after all. Shame she couldn't be there to see it. Served him right. This was the first time Kevin had let her out of his sight in 15 years. That's an overused phrase, but in her case it was virtually correct. She was allowed a life only within the narrow parameters that he approved of. Home life, no kids, no friends and no job. Stella had known that the only things likely to relax his grip on her would be beer in great quantities and the knowledge that she was being supervised by the wife of his best friend. The wife who'd had her drink ever so slightly enriched by Stella, leading to a speedier than usual lack of sobriety. No harm done. All she'd done was encourage Marie to let down her guard more quickly. 2 taxis gone, Stella's next step was the station and the blessed relief of squirming into good clothes currently hidden in a lockered hold all. Half an hour in one of the toilet cubicles would ensure that she emerged immaculate and polished. You might be wondering why Stella, now a millionairess, had gone to all the trouble of 2 disguises. She could have taken a flight to anywhere in the world and disappeared immediately. It was quite simple. The second disguise was the real Stella. She was smart and fashionable and stylish and confident. She was a new brunette, with a briefcase and a suitcase, clearly just home from a business meeting, perhaps in London or Brussels. She looked 15 years younger, just as she'd looked before she'd met Kevin. Her first disguise, the street Stella, might seem an unnecessary step, but it was necessary. She wanted and needed to be totally and utterly sure that she was doing the right thing. She'd wanted to see Kev as others see him, from outside their relationship, and wanted him to see her as others never had. She wanted to see his face full of disparaging hate as he stared into the eyes of an unknown person who had nothing to offer him. She wanted to see him, red-faced, drunk, smoking and sweating from too much beer, meat and spicy food. She wanted to hear his voice one last time, while she still had the chance to change her mind. She did not change her mind. Stella, a smart businesswoman on her way home from a European conference, turned left out of the ladies' room. Her wants and needs were finally being met by Stella herself. 4 seconds later, she was lost in the crowd and could finally breathe for the first time in 15 years. It had been an eternity.